David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you something I saw while at the Atlanta show that I felt was really interesting. It is a retailer exclusive offering from the Hinze Pen Company, available through the Chicago-based Atlas stationers. And that pen is called the Taschenstift. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this colorful offering, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. And you also have the unique opportunity to potentially name a pen, but more about that here in a bit. Thanks go out to the Hinze Pen Company for providing this pen for review. Here's a picture I took at the recent Atlanta Pen Show. This is Jim Hinze, the gentleman behind the brand, as well as his partner Elise, who is the woman behind Starry Night Resins, which are prominently featured not only in Jim's pens, but other artisan pens as well, but not the pen you'll see today. Atlas Stationers is currently carrying 5 different versions of this pen. There is the Cool Breeze, the Gold Rush, Insanity, Northern Lights, and Picasso. The pen arrives in this box, which slides open, and if the pen doesn't want to slide out, and here we go. This is the Hinze Taschenstift. Taschenstift is a German word for pocket pen. It is made from a unique micarta material called crazy fiber. It's manufactured in Russia, and it's more commonly used in knife making. This is some really interesting material. Micarta is typically layers of fabric bonded by resin, folded and twisted in order to achieve unique, one-of-a-kind patterns. For crazy fiber, all of the folding is done by hand, and so you're not ever going to find 2 blanks with the same pattern. What I find fascinating about this material is that the fabric and resin really fuse together, and there's very little hint of layers. In this picture here, the hint of fabric almost looks like it's painted on. I feel this particular material really represents Fordite. If you're not familiar with Fordite, it was a byproduct of the automobile manufacturing process. Back in the day, cars were spray painted by hand. This practice resulted in a fair amount of overspray, and over time, the excess paint would gradually build up with many colorful layers around the painting area. And these layers were hardened repeatedly in ovens that cars went into to cure the paint. So eventually, the paint buildup would become too thick and had to be removed. And some enterprising employees realized the cured and hardened material could easily be polished and have many artistic uses. The painting techniques used, which created this product, are no longer in use by the industry, so it is rare and unique material. I know that's a bit of a long story about something that this pen only resembles, but stories like that are ones I like to tell. And I've said many times, a pen is just a pen, but a pen with a story, that's what turns a pen into a cherished possession. Okay, in regard to the material for this specific pen, you might have noticed that it wasn't included in the pens Atlas Stationer was offering. I had picked this up from Jim at the Atlanta show, and his inventory of this material was a bit scarcer, so it wasn't part of the Atlas offerings. But the parts and features of this pen are the same as what they are offering. Jim might actually have a bit more of this material, so if you're interested in a pen from him with it, I would recommend reaching out to him. Jim mentioned to me that he didn't have a name for this model with this specific material. So if you think you have an appropriate name for this pen, then go ahead and leave it in the notes below. I don't like having a pen without a name. I'll put a link to his site in the notes below. In regard to those parts and features, on the top of the cap, there is an insert with the Hinze pen logo. The end of the cap is flat. This is a clipless pen, which I feel was a wise decision. This is really a smaller pocket pen, and a clip, in my opinion, would have broken up the aesthetics a bit. The cap is straight. There is a very small step down from the cap to the barrel. The barrel is also straight, and at the end there are some posting threads, and the very end is flat. From speaking with a number of artisans who work with micarta, getting the threads right is one of the toughest things to do while working with this material. There are times when the fabric in the material won't hold its consistency and remain as solid as necessary for a quality thread, or a thread that won't break down over time. But as I mentioned earlier about this crazy fiber, it really does a good job of fusing the layers together and making it a more solid material which is more easily worked with. The cap twists off with 1 3/4 rotations, and underneath we have a number 6 Jowo stainless steel nib engraved with the Hinze logo. I had Jim affix the pen with this blue nib. I thought that it complemented the colors of the rest of the pen well. This nib is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, as well as a 1.1 stub. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is metal and begins with a squared ridge before angling up only a few millimeters before it transitions into the cap threads and a medium-sized step up to the remainder of the barrel. Even though the section is metal, I don't find it to be slick at all. For me, the section is long enough to use comfortably. I like the length and the width of it. The length of the pen itself is long enough for me to use without posting, which is typically how I have found myself using this pen. But the cap twists to post very easily and adds a decent amount of length to this pen. The cap is not heavy at all, so I don't find posting to backweight the pen or throw off the balance. I think it looks nice posted as well, but like I said, more often than not, I don't bother with posting and use this pen unposted. This is a cartridge converter pen, neither of which was included with this pen. A standard international short cartridge would work well with this pen, but the barrel is too short for a standard converter. I'm currently using one of the Kaweco converters, which works well with smaller pens like this. I would advise caution if you would care to eyedropper this pen. You would need the appropriate amount of silicone grease on the threads, and I'm uncertain if the interior of the barrel of this micarta material will stain at all. So eyedropper at your own risk. Though most likely it will probably be just fine. The Hinze Taschenstift is available exclusively through Atlas Stationers. I'll put a link in the notes below where you can find the 5 available models. It retails for $250. While I do feel that that is on the high end of the value proposition for this particular pen, I feel it has an interesting design, and I'm a big fan of this crazy fiber micarta. If you enjoy unique pens, then this might be something you would like to check out. Okay, it is now time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Hinze Pen Company Taschenstift. I wanted to give you another closer look at that micarta. I just think that this is a really interesting material. Almost looks like peacock feathers as well. But in regard to some other pens, maybe some other smaller pens, this is the Shibui North Pocket Fox. Then we have the Shown Design Pocket 6. And then here it is with a Kaweco AL Sport. And in regard to some other pens, here it is with another pen from Hinze Pen Company, which was called the Starry Night. And then this pen here was from a maker called Wet and Wise, and this pen was called the Albert. And then finally, we have one of my favorite materials with this, which is a maple burl, which is from Rockster Pens, which makes a lot of cool offerings. Rather than uncapped, let's take a look at this pen while it is posted. In comparison to some other smaller pens, this is what it looks like with the Kaweco AL Sport, and this is the Shibui North Pocket Fox, as well as the Shown Design Pocket 6. You can see that it expands to a fairly normal size pen. You know, actually here, this is just with the Rockster Daydreamer by itself. So you can see that it's fairly large when it is posted. Okay, here we go with a writing sample for the Hinze. And this is the Taschenstift. Taschen. Taschenstift, which means pocket pen in German. And this is a broad stainless steel nib. And the ink is one of my favorite kind of orange inks, which is Diamine Pumpkin. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice, vibrant, kind of reddish orange. This is what it looks like in comparison to Papier Plume's Bloody Pumpkin, and then Ferris Wheel Press Pumpkin Patch. So you can see each of them have different interpretations on the pumpkin theme. This is what the smaller 30 milliliter bottles of Diamine look like. I still like that they put the label on top. The neck on this one is rather narrow, so if you have a larger pen, it really doesn't fit in here for a lot of pens, but the inks are very nice. So here we go with the rest of the writing sample. This broad nib is very nice. It's very smooth. That Jim does a good job with his nibs. You're not going to get a lot of flexibility out of this particular nib, but I do like the looks of this blue nib with the black section in correlation with the rest of this body. In regard to ink flow, I find it's pretty generous. And in regard to reverse writing, it's okay to lay down an extra fine line. It really felt like an unsharpened pencil rather than being sharp or too stiff. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up very well. So there you have the Hinze Taschenstift. Like I said, a number of these, 5 different versions, are available exclusively at Atlas Stationers. I'll put a link to where you can find those in the notes below. And the material on those is very interesting as well. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.